Today we're diving back into the captivating tale of the Hessians, those pivotal German soldiers who made their mark on the American Revolutionary War. Their story, so often glossed over in the grander narrative of the conflict, is one that deserves our attention. These men, hailing primarily from the German states of Hesse-Kassel and Hesse-Hanau, were both celebrated and feared for their unwavering discipline and stellar battle skills. Do you think they simply stumbled onto this war stage? They weren't. They were strategically enlisted by the British forces, who were sweating bullets, and required experienced soldiers to beef up their ranks against the American revolutionaries. This was the norm of the time, professional soldiers moonlighting for other nations as mercenary forces. The Hessians, despite their foreign roots, became an inseparable thread woven into the war's tapestry. But there's more. The Hessians are a treasure trove of lessons about the complex dimensions of warfare. They weren't just nameless soldiers, they were individuals with diverse backgrounds and gripping personal narratives. Some even embraced the land they fought in as their new home after the war, amidst the whirlwind of revolution and change. We're going to voyage into their experiences, their motivations, their triumphant victories and heartbreaking defeats, and their enduring legacy. So buckle up. We're about to take a ride through 8 fast facts about Hessians. The term Hessians refers to German soldiers who were hired by the British during the era of the American Revolution. These soldiers were not just ordinary combatants, but were an integral part of the grand strategy employed by the British. They were a specialized force, singled out for their superior skills and battle-hardened experiences. Historically, Germany wasn't a unified entity during this period, but a fragmented land of numerous states, which gives a broader perspective on the origin of these hired soldiers. They hailed from various German states, each with its own unique cultural and military traditions. The diversity among the soldiers was reflective of the diverse and fragmented states they came from. Among these states, the largest contingent was from Hesse, a region known for its fiercely disciplined and well-trained military. This dominance of soldiers from Hesse led to them all being referred to collectively as Hessians. This common term, however, can lead to a misleading interpretation of their true origins. Many believe that all these soldiers were from Hesse, creating a common but incorrect assumption. This is a misconception that has been perpetuated through history and even today continues to exist. Even though the name Hessian became a synonym for these German soldiers, it obscured the true diversity among their ranks. These soldiers came from various German states, not just Hesse, despite the common misconception. The British hired these mercenaries, not out of an unanticipated whim or thoughtless strategy, but because of an acute shortage of manpower. The backdrop of this decision painted a grim picture of the times, a harsh reality that the British forces were grappling with. The heart of the British Empire that once held sway over vast territories had found itself in a dire situation, quite a paradox for a nation that was considered one of the most powerful of its time. It was a testing time. The British army was stretched thin and needed reinforcements. They were confronted with the challenge of fighting a war on unfamiliar grounds, thousands of miles away from their homeland. The American colonies, with their vast land and rudimentary infrastructure, posed significant challenges. The British Army needed soldiers who were both courageous and resilient, who could weather the harsh conditions and still maintain their combat readiness. In the face of a colossal hurdle such as this, they turned to the Germans, known for their discipline and efficiency, to fill in the gaps. Offers were made to the German soldiers, ones that were far too tempting to resist. These German mercenaries, who were seen as some of the best trained and most experienced soldiers of their time, were enticed by promises that glittered with opportunity. They were offered attractive packages of pay, land, and the prospects of a fresh start in the New World. The allure of broadening horizons and opportunities in the American colonies was simply too irresistible to turn down. Hessian soldiers signed contracts or mercenaries treaties, outlining their terms of service. These written agreements were not taken lightly. They were meticulously drawn, marking a significant point in the lives of these soldiers. They were binding in every sense of the word, a written testament to the gravity of the task at hand. Such contracts, written with a sense of solemnity and deep respect for the profession, were unique to their times. Each contract was a comprehensive document, intricately detailing the specifics of each soldier's service. They weren't vague or ambiguous, but instead they clarified every possible detail regarding the soldier's duty. The materials used in the contract, the words chosen, everything echoed the seriousness of the task. The contracts were strong, binding agreements, the likes of which are rarely seen today. Pay was a critical part of these contracts. It was clearly stated so that there would be no ambiguity later. The contract clearly outlined the amount that each soldier was entitled to receive for his service. Each soldier knew exactly what he was working for, helping to instill a sense of purpose and motivation in him. The length of service was another important aspect that was mentioned in these Mercenaries treaties. It specified the exact duration for which the soldier was expected to serve. This time-bound clause helped instill discipline and commitment in the soldiers, making them aware of the gravity and duration of their service. Another pivotal element mentioned in these contracts was the consequences if a soldier was captured while in service. This clause painted a grim picture of the possible dangers inherent in their profession, ensuring they fully understood the risks involved. These contracts often included specific provisions about pay, length of service, and what would happen if they were captured. Hessians were known for their distinct uniforms, often featuring brightly colored jackets, tricorn hats, and distinctive weaponry. These German mercenaries, hired by the British during the American Revolution, stood out amongst the soldiers with their eye-catching attire. Their uniforms were not just for show, however. The bright hues of their jackets served as a psychological tactic designed to intimidate their enemies on the battlefield. One can imagine the shock and awe the colonial soldiers must have felt when faced with this sea of vibrant colors, starkly contrasting the more subdued hues of their own uniforms. The tricorn hats they wore were not just a fashion statement. These three-cornered hats, reminiscent of the popular style in Europe at the time, were designed to protect the soldiers from the elements. They kept the sun off their faces and the rain off their heads, practical aspects that were especially valuable during long days on the battlefield. Their weaponry, too, was distinctive. Often they carried muskets and bayonets, the standard armaments of the period. However, what set them apart was their proficiency and discipline in using these weapons, honed by rigorous training and years of experience in European wars. The Hessians' entire gear setup was meticulously designed and chosen. Each item, from their vividly colored jackets to their tricorn hats and unique weaponry, was not just visually striking, but also served a strategic purpose. Their gear added a unique flair to the battlefields of the American Revolution. One of the most famous encounters involving Hessians was the Battle of Trenton in 1776. This encounter was more than just a battle. It was a pivotal moment in the American Revolutionary War. The Hessians, German mercenaries hired by the British, played a significant role during the war, and their encounter with the Continental Army at Trenton was no different. Here, nestled beside the Delaware River, the Battle of Trenton unfurled. It was not just a clash of soldiers, but also a clash of cultures and ideologies, echoing through the ages as a defining moment in history. The winter was harsh, and the biting cold seeped into the soldiers' bones, making the conditions extremely difficult. The Delaware River, usually a serene sheet of water, was a formidable obstacle, its surface hardened by the icy winter conditions. Yet the leader of the Continental Army, George Washington, had a daring plan. This would not be an ordinary battle, fought in broad daylight with lines of men firing at each other. No, this was going to be something different, something audacious. Washington planned to cross the frozen Delaware River under the cover of darkness and storm the unsuspecting Hessian garrison. The Hessian soldiers, believing themselves safe and secure in their fortified position, were caught off guard. The element of surprise was on the side of the Continental Army. Despite the freezing cold and the treacherous river crossing, George Washington led his men to a successful surprise assault. This was not just a victory, it was a morale boost for the revolutionary forces, a glimmer of hope in a war that often seemed hopeless. This audacious act set a precedent for future battles and strategies in the war, highlighting the importance of unexpected moves and daring actions in the face of adversity. George Washington executed a daring and successful crossing of the icy Delaware River to surprise and defeat the Hessian garrison. Although often criticized as mercenaries, Hessians were no mere soldiers of fortune. Originating from Hesse, a region in Germany, these formidable troops were expertly trained and highly disciplined. Their regiments were leased by British forces during the 18th century, a pragmatism born out of the need for men to fight in their overseas conflicts. The Hessians, despite their detached reputation, were more than just pawns in a larger geopolitical game. They hailed from diverse backgrounds, some were coerced into service, others sought the promise of adventure, or a chance to escape the poverty of their homeland. They carried with them a blend of professional and personal motivations that added a complex layer to their perceived roles. Their service in the Revolutionary War was marked by significant feats of bravery and strategic acumen. They fought fiercely in battles like the Battle of Trenton, where they suffered a notable defeat, and the Battle of Long Island, where they aided in a British victory. These battles were turning points in the Revolutionary War, shaping its trajectory in unforeseen ways. Each Hessian soldier, from the lowest rank to the highest, bore the weight of their duty with resilience and courage. Their discipline and effectiveness in combat situations were admirable, if not always victorious. They left a profound imprint on the conflict, their actions echoing long after the fires of war had subsided. Their involvement in the Revolutionary War, though controversial, was undeniably pivotal. It's a part of history that invites us to reconsider our definitions of loyalty, duty, and honor. Ultimately, Hessians played a significant role in key battles of the Revolutionary War, influencing the course of history. After the war, many Hessians made the choice to stay in the United States, a decision that would forever change their lives. The opportunity to start anew in a land of uncharted territories and unimaginable possibilities was too tempting to resist. The Hessians, who were initially hired as a mercenary force by the British during the American Revolutionary War, found a new home in the birthplace of liberty, a land that they once fought against. The sense of irony was not lost on them. However, the allure of the American dream was compelling enough for them to lay down roots and start afresh. They traded their war-torn past for a chance at a peaceful future. Seeking refuge from the chaos they left behind, these men found solace in the unfamiliar streets and faces of their new country. The American landscape, with its sprawling plains and towering mountain ranges, was a stark contrast to the densely populated cities and towns of their homeland. Over time, these Hessians grew to love their adopted homeland as much as their own. They became farmers, merchants, and craftsmen, contributing to the burgeoning economy of this young nation. They embraced the American culture, language, and traditions, and in return were welcomed by the locals with open arms. Remarkably, some of these former mercenaries went one step further. Their loyalty to their new home ran so deep that they chose to fight for the Americans in subsequent conflicts. This was a testament to the transformative power of the American dream and the seemingly infinite potential of this brave new world. Today you can still find traces of Hessian influence in American culture. This influence, though subtle, is deeply ingrained in the everyday life of Americans, even if they aren't aware of it. To understand this phenomenon, let's dive into history. During the American Revolutionary War, the German state of Hesse provided thousands of soldiers, called Hessians, to the British forces. These soldiers were exposed to the American culture and lifestyle, and subsequently, many of them chose to stay in America after the war. They assimilated into the society, marrying locals and starting families. This is where our story of Hessian influence in American culture starts. These families became a part of American society, passing on their German traditions and values through generations. Their surnames became family names, common in the United States today. Some examples include names like Keller, Meyer, and Schmidt, which are of German origin. Did you know that one of Rob Lowe's ancestors was one of thousands of Hessian soldiers? Moreover, these families contributed significantly to their communities. They built landmarks, churches, and schools, contributing to the architectural, educational, and cultural landscape. Many of these landmarks still stand today, reminding us of their impact and their heritage. But the influence of the Hessians doesn't end there. They also introduced elements of German culture, such as Christmas traditions like the Christmas tree and Santa Claus, which are now deeply embedded in American culture. And so, while time has passed and the world has changed, the influence of these Hessian soldiers and their descendants persist. From local landmarks to family names with German origins, their legacy lives on, shaping the American culture we know today. And there you have it. 8 fast facts about Hessians in the American Revolutionary War. I hope you liked the facts, and most of them were new to you. The Hessians, despite being a relatively small part of the American Revolutionary War, played a significant role. Their involvement and the impact they had on the course of the war is a testament to the intricacies of history and how every piece of the puzzle plays an essential part. If you found this video engaging, check out my other video about Hessians, the German elite mercenaries of the American Revolutionary War. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more interesting content, and leave a comment with your thoughts. I appreciate your support and look forward to your insights and opinions. See you next time. Stay curious.